Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh's past has been the subject of intense media attention lately. And earlier this week, the New York Times unearthed an embarrassing chapter from 33 years ago. But they ended up facing their own questions about blurred lines between opinion and news. Adam Riley has more.
3 decades ago, the mellow sounds of UB40 got future Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh into a bar fight after he and 2 friends saw the band live, stopped for drinks afterward, and saw a guy they thought was UB40's singer.
He said something fairly aggressive, screw off, or something to that degree. Brett took umbrage at this and threw his beer at the guy.
Or, to paraphrase the police report,
Kavanaugh threw a glass of ice into the stranger's face, and then all hell broke loose.
Which also happened after the New York Times broke the story. One of the 2 bylined reporters, New York Times Magazine staffer and op-ed contributor Emily Bazelon, has been publicly critical of Kavanaugh, tweeting after his nomination, "As a Yale Law School grad and lecturer, I strongly disassociate myself from tonight's praise of Brett Kavanaugh. He's a 5th vote for a hard right turn that will harm the democratic process and prevent a more equal society," which made conservatives wonder, why bring an opinion journalist into the mix here?
She's a liberal, and suddenly she's appearing on a news story.
At first, the Times defended that choice, telling the Daily Caller, this is a straightforward story based on police reports, which are public documents. But then the paper changed its tune, saying in retrospect, editors should have used a newsroom reporter in New Haven, even though Bazelon is based there. Not everyone agrees. The Washington Post's Wesley Lowery pushed back, tweeting, unless there are questions about the journalism, Bazelon's tweet shouldn't matter.
I just think this is a big mistake. No one is arguing with the facts of the story. And in fact, as far as we know, it's a solid story. But I think whether or not she just played a minor role in this piece, such as getting information from a police report, or whether she wrote the entire story, I think this is the kind of thing that when the public views it, they say, look, we told you so. This is how it works. On one hand, people have opinions and they put it out there, and the next moment they're working that into their story.
I think this is a problem with the modern media in general. You've got straight news reporters showing print reporters who also go on TV and provide opinion and analysis that is really speaking to one choir or another. And we all now, in addition to working for a brand, have our own personal brands. Her personal brand happens to be opinionated magazine writer. So when you see that byline attached to a news story, even if the news story is solid, it tends to call into question, if not the facts in the story, at least the motive behind it. So I would have reassigned it to someone else.
I agree with both of you. I actually debated with Wesley Lowery on this a bit on Twitter. I don't think this is a big deal, but I think it's a small deal, and sometimes the small things matter too in terms of maintaining our credibility. There is a short tradition, I should say, since social media hasn't been around that long, that if you are an opinion journalist, you may express your opinions on Twitter, and if you're a straight news journalist, then you don't. And in her case, she expresses her opinions in the pages of the New York Times and on Twitter, and then she's going off and writing a police story about Brett Kavanaugh. I also don't think it helped that the story itself was tertiary in terms of importance at best. I don't think the story ever would have seen the light of day if it hadn't been for all of Kavanaugh's other problems. So you put all that together, unforced error on the part of the Times.
Yeah, tertiary. Wow, that's a
big word.
That's a $5 word, Professor. Thanks for that. I think I agree with that, whatever it means. A decades-old police report. Any reporter can tell you that police reports can be the repository of just about anything. A lot like FBI reports. That's not to say they can't be used as part of the reporting on a story, but proceed with caution. And what did he throw? Ice or beer? There was a conflict even in the piece we just did. I don't see how that really moved the ball down the court in understanding Brett Kavanaugh. But I agree with what's been said about this reporter's role. The Times indicated that really they just used her to help trying to access documents at Yale and at New Haven.
Because she's from that area.
And she's a graduate of Yale, right? Well, so what's her byline doing on there? That was an odd decision.
Yeah, you get a tagline, so-and-so assisted with this report, or something like that.
And, you know, I'm an opinion or an analysis journalist, and I tweet, but I try to confine the tweets to analysis. What she tweeted was just flat-out opinion. She took sides. That probably wasn't such a smart move.
So you think if she had kind of watered down that tweet, it may not have been an issue? Or just even stepping into those waters would have caused a problem?
You know, as I did, you should review the record and consider this and that and what this might mean for this and that. That's different from saying, this guy's a public menace.
Right. So, a couple of things. I pretty much mostly agree with what you all said. If the point was to have access, then I take a look at what Dana Milbank wrote. He is an opinion journalist. He wrote a whole piece about being at Yale, not at the same time with Kavanaugh, but expressing the kind of stuff that was exactly, I'm sorry to say, something of what Justice Kavanaugh did not say he did, but whatever. He said it all, said this is what we did, this is what I did. And this great anecdote at the end about a guy with stuff up his nose riding the Zamboni naked, who now is a well-renowned surgeon, making the point that what you do then may not have anything to do with what you do now. But the bottom line was he came from his place of expertise in doing that, and we knew that it was absolutely his opinion. Here, I don't know that it should have been said that she writes opinion pieces and, oh, by the way, this is what she has said about Brett Kavanaugh, in order for that, if she was going to remain on the piece, then that needed to be clear to the readers, and it wasn't. So I don't think that's fair. Not to mention that the story itself is a little like,
why? Yeah.
Sketchy.
But to your point, Lila, is this a problem that we will be seeing more of down the road? Because reporters are being encouraged to either tweet or do something on Facebook, or even reporters have podcasts where opinion really is what makes the program.
I think we will. I think we're going to run into this a lot. As editors, as consumers, it's harder and harder to see where the line is between reported stories and reported opinion that also references reporting or references other sources. It's a difficult thing to do, and you can't really divide your staff completely, at least not as easily as maybe you could a generation of news people ago. But I think that consumers are going to want to know, is this an opinion person writing news? Why is this opinion person writing news?
And the more journalists are pressured to create buzz and clicks, well, it's a lot easier to do that with snark and sharp opinion.
You made a very good point, too, John, that I don't think has been explained clearly at all, and that is, what was Emily Bazelon's role?
We don't know.
I mean, you send the intern to go get the police report, and nobody puts their name on it.
But it seems to be a minor role, and then she gets her name in the byline, and then that's what leads to the problem.
I do want to just make one point. There's tweeting, and then there's tweeting. Hers had a nasty edge to it.
That was tweeting.
You know, that was tweeting capital T.
She put herself in the tweet.
Fine, actually, but then don't turn around.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Write the straight news.
She put herself in the tweet. I disassociate myself from the applause. So it became very personal. It was nothing but her personal opinion.
That's right.
And I think that's where you need to draw the line.
Okay. Well, here's where we draw the line.